So how do you feel about scheduling sex?
It's funny. I I do and I don't, right? I think any concept, anything I've talked about today, any sexual wellness framework you're offered, you always have to right size it for yourself, right?
Hmm.
So what's going to fit right for me? I think scheduling sex is not my favorite thing. I think when you have small people, if you've made small people,
Yes.
different convo.
Yeah.
But when you don't have small people like me, and I feel like I'm saying small people, I'm code for children. If you don't have any, I think scheduling can create like some rigidity that
Mm.
sometimes cannot feel as helpful. And so I think what really is important is just thinking about, the rhythmicity of it, the quantity of it, like
Hmm.
trying to have sex, once or twice a week, having that more as a goal as opposed to we're doing it at this time.
Hmm.
That said, though, a couple conversations with friends recently, it is nice to potentially have a time of day. I have a
Mm.
friend of mine who has kids, and for her, she's like, it's got to be in the afternoon. Like, I can't, if it's at night, the kids, I've put them to bed, I
Yeah.
made dinner, I'm tired, maybe I ate dinner and I'm just not in the mood
Yeah.
to have sex. So,
Right.
in the afternoon, like right before drop off, is
Mm.
great if my partner's home, and so
Interesting.
again, like the little people come in and demand
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
But I think without little people, it just, making sure it's happening, and I think talking about it if it's not happening. And that's my
Hmm.
thing. I think communication about sex is so important.
Hmm.
I love talking about how it's feeling. Does it feel good? Like I love like analyzing an orgasm, like, and not analyzing it to the point that it's not fun, but it's just kind of like, how did that feel? Or like,
Mm.
that felt so good. Like, because I do think like we don't need to like overly congratulate each other or our
Hmm.
partners when we're having sex, but I think this acknowledgement of we are able to get there together, I think
Yeah.
is such a, I don't know, it's a really tender,
Yeah.
private thing that you
Hmm.
get to have together. It's a conversation you can't duplicate unless you have multiple partners. And so I always like to dive into the space that's
Yeah.
there and kind of talk about, what's working and what's
Sure.
not.
Time of day is interesting because I think if you are someone that loves morning sex and your partner hates morning sex, or if you're a low libido person and your partner has higher libido, even though it's not a fixed thing, it kind of changes. But how do you find compromise when maybe you're not on the same page as your partner with preferences?
You
Time
know,
of day, frequency.
yeah, I think it's all about literally compromise. It's give and take. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're not a morning sex person and your partner is, sometimes you're going to have morning sex. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. It's about doing what they want to
Yeah.
do when you don't fucking feel like it.
Yeah.
And then they're going to do what you want to do when they don't fucking feel
Right.
like it.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like, unless you live in a tyrannical home where it's your way or the highway,
Yeah.
or there's, mental health or developmental health
Mm-hmm.
things that make it impossible for you to meet your partner where they want to be met, you just have to kind of give and take and make sure that there's a nice,
Mm-hmm.
balance of both of those things. Because I think sometimes like the biggest act of love is surrendering to the thing that you aren't obsessed with. You're kind of just like,
Yes.
I wish this wasn't happening, but you don't tell them that.
Yeah.
You go through it, and sometimes by doing the thing that they want, it creates arousal and it creates
Yes.
desire,
Yes.
because you want, ideally, like you want to see your partner
Yes.
happy and
Mm-hmm.
satisfied, and they want the same for you. So sometimes you just kind of gotta push through and then
Mm-hmm.
just make sure that it's equitable and reciprocitous, that they're going to
Yes.
do the same thing,
Yes.
as long as there's no pain, as long
Mm-hmm.
as there's no trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very different layer,
Mm-hmm.
and probably for a different conversation. But if it's more just like a psychological, I got to get over the hump on this, you know creating that elasticity is
Yes.
great.
And you mentioned 1 to 2 times per week. For couples that are at once a month, do you feel like that is always a signal that there needs to be some better communication in the relationship? Or if both parties are like, once a month works for us?
you know y- it's really about writing your own
Yeah.
rules, right, and understanding like what does satisfaction really
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
feel like in your body? Like,
Yeah.
what does it feel like in your body? When do you know that you're sated?
Mm-hmm.
And then what does it feel like to feel deficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really believe in quality over quantity.
Mm.
And are your sexual experiences, are your orgasms points of resource? So when I say that, what I mean is, if you're not having sex frequently, but when you do come, it's so good and it's so connected, and there's eye contact and you're sweating and there's all of this like imprinting that's happening in your
Mm-hmm.
body,
Mm-hmm.
so that when you go a month or 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
if you close your eyes or hear a certain song or smell a certain scent, all of those feelings come flooding back into your system. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Like, once a month is maybe all that you need, or all that the relationship can manifest or withstand, right? And so that's why I always feel it's really about quality, and then it's the ability to just resource from it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, you could be having sex every single day, but it's just fine.
Yeah.
It's like using a vibrator. It's like you get there and you're good, right?
Yeah.
That's also totally good as well. That's totally fine. But I think what I'm trying to lean into is, for people who are like, we don't have sex that often, if the sex is really, really good and you can resource from it in between,
Mm-hmm.
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the frequency thing, when you live in the culture that we do, I find myself always saying this, it's like a broken record, it's not designed for intimacy. It's not designed for time with your partner. It's about capitalism
Right.
and making money
Yes.
and going on vacation and eating dinner and putting your kids in school and
Mhm.
achievement. Nothing that really actually helps support like arousal and desire, which is why so much sex happens around, requires the lubrication of alcohol or some other kind of substance to help you drop in. No judgment, but it does kind of go hand in hand. And so I think we all need to be more gentle on ourselves and understand that, like, most of the day we are in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
We're in sympathetic overdrive. We're like, and the phones are keeping us there, So you're always up here, and to have sex, oftentimes you need to come out of up there, come out of the sympathetic response, drop into just a baseline, and then go into parasympathetic response to get there, right?
Yes.
And most of us don't get the chance to do that state change, right?
Yes.
We're just kind of flung into one state. And then sometimes when we want to get out of that state, it is when we happen to go on vacation or leave our homes or environments. And then by the time you kind of come out of that state change, you got to go back home.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about learning to do small things that help shift your your state. And that's not having the phone in the bedroom. That's exercising or walking. It's a long bath if you have a bath, or a long shower, or a quick shower. Just thinking about what are the things that help jump you out of that.
And I feel lucky that I have a partner that loves to set the mood, loves to do the candles, put on the great music. Like he is really into, like, let's make this a moment for
100%.
us.
When I got to your home, and your husband's clearly an audiophile. He has all this amazing sound stuff, and so I have no doubt he's able to just like.
He's a mood setter.
Yeah,